Oh, raise your hand if you were not here Friday. Anybody wasn't here Friday? So I talked a little bit on Friday about how to be successful. I'm not going to go back through that stuff. Oh, shoot. That's geometry. We don't want to do that. I do want to show you now that we're recording. So we have a hardcover book and just a class set of those books. You don't get to take a book home. You don't have a book that you will always have with you. We don't have consumable. Raise your hand if you have never used a consumable. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's like where you tear pages out. You've done that before. So this is the first time I've ever taught a class. We've always had pages that I could say tear those out, and you've got them with you, and you don't finish in here. You can go home and finish them. I don't know how, like, I don't know exactly how it works when you don't have that. I'm going to assign a bunch of problems. You're probably not going to finish all of them. I'm not sure what classes, like, some of you maybe had it. What did you do when you didn't? Okay, and that's what I'm about to show you. Is that what you did in all the other classes? Oh, I guess you could take pictures of the pages. Yeah, if you'd rather not deal with going on, like the advantage, I mean, I'm in the online book right now. I'm about to show you how to get there. The advantage of the online is that you can also get help with it. So if you just take pictures and you can't figure it out and all you're working from the hard copy stuff, I mean, you can Google and YouTube and look up the topics and stuff. But the book itself, first of all, it has some of the actual answers in it for some of the examples and stuff. But there's also I don't even know what page. Like page 2 or 3. Probably, yeah, page that. 4. It's on 4, it's probably on 2 or 3. If you look down at the bottom, there's a little QR code. The QR codes give you help with the problems on that page. So you just scan that. But again, if you don't have the book, you can't do that. But I believe it's the same stuff that you can get online. Like you see this little digital, or I'm sorry, QR code here in the digital version. You have that same stuff with it. So that was going to be my answer. So I'm glad you said that you've done that before, because I wasn't sure if other classes even use the online books that much for math. I definitely do for geometry. Everything I do is from the online book, but they have hardcover pages they tear out. So, which most of you know because you probably had geometry here. All right. So with that in mind, this really, we do a lot of review. Even after we get out of the prerequisite stuff, it still looks like I looked at it a lot more this weekend. It's a lot of just algebra, like, and then eventually algebra 2, but initially not even algebra 2. So this may not be as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. I guess it depends on how you did in your prior algebra and algebra 2 classes. So I guess we'll kind of see together like what I'll know after the first quiz looks like. I will say this first lesson about like classifying numbers, I think is kind of silly. It's a very old school thing for you to be able to put numbers into these classifications. I get that you learn it once when you're young, but it doesn't really maybe in other math, I don't know. It doesn't really come up that much in anything I've taught. But we're going to go through it anyway. So we're talking about rational and irrational numbers, and then we'll kind of talk about some other stuff with that, but mainly rational and irrational. Can anybody explain to me what a rational number? What's that mean? Can be. So when you say even, what do you mean by even? All right, so those are rational numbers, but there's a lot of other rational numbers. Well, rational numbers are a member of real numbers, but so are irrational. So real numbers can contain both. Real numbers are basically like all the numbers out there, those are real. I think there is like one thing that's called, I don't think anybody's probably, have you ever heard of imaginary? There's actually a thing called imaginary. Did you do those in last time? So, yeah, did you? Oh, so that was in algebra 2? I really don't know what's in algebra 2, like where the lines are for all the math. Yeah? Yeah, algebra 2 gets in that. I didn't know you did imaginary. So imaginary numbers are not real numbers. Like everything else is real numbers. So rational and irrational are real numbers. Isn't that weird? Like there's imaginary numbers. That always kind of blows my mind. We created these things that are imaginary numbers. Why would you do that? I'm sure there was a reason why they did. So even numbers are, so therefore odd numbers are. But what else are? Either give me examples, or if you can truly explain it, there is an explanation for it.
Decimals one.
What kind of decimal? Let's talk about that. What kind of decimals do we have?
Pi.
Is it pi? Is pi a decimal?
3.14.
Is it? Is pi 3.14?
Yeah, 3.14.
Wait, but you just said it was 3.14.
I mean, that's
Then you added a 1.5.
That's the full thing.
So is that so it's 3.1415?
That's 3.115.
Oh wait, so wait, you keep adding numbers to it though, are you?
That's the full thing of
Make
pi.
up another name,
That's the
man.
full thing. If you put
Is
pi in
there
your calculator.
ever a full thing of pi? Does pi ever end? It doesn't, right? That's what an irrational number is. Never end. You can't write it. That's why we use a symbol for pi. You can never write exactly what pi is. That's why we write that guy. Pi goes on for it. Did you sound like you've done the competition or something for pi? You memorize digits, yeah. So pi is a number that never ends. There's a what is it? March 14th. Right? So there's a competition. I don't do it. We can't do it. But there's a competition where the students will try to memorize pi out as many decimal. I can't get that. I only know 1415. Do you know what comes after that? Huh?
I think it's like 3.
Oh, I don't know you remember the song.
I think it's like 6. 3.1415926.
Yeah. It goes on for like I've heard kids have memorized up to like 50 numbers after the decimal or something ridiculous to win the competition. I don't know what the highest ever happened to this school.
The number 0.555. That can be irrational.
No, is it? It doesn't stop, right? If it's 0.555 or 0.3333, so is that irrational? Is it? What's different between this, where you have decimal numbers that keep going on forever, or something like this, where you have the same? This is not a 3. That is a mutant 3. So here I need to, I guess, write 3.1415. What did you say you knew the next couple?
926.
926. But then it just keeps going. Versus this, that also just keeps going. What's the difference between those two?
It's infinite.
They both keep going on forever, but what's the difference in what keeps going here versus, do you know what, like, without memorizing them, do you know, is there a pattern to the numbers? Do you know what's coming next in the pi? But based on a pattern, not just having memorized it. There's no pattern to that, right? Do you know what's coming next on the bottom one? What is it?
3.
3. What's that called? We don't need that, right?
Repeating.
It's a repeating decimal. So that's the difference between when a number repeats versus when it's not going to repeat. It's going to be a random, it's not random because it's based on calculation, but these are rational. If it repeats, it's rational. If it's not going to ever repeat, it's irrational. So pi is irrational. What are the other types of irrational numbers? There's one main type. Fraction is actually the definition of rational. If you can write it as a fraction, this 0.3, what's the fraction for 0.3? Well, that's whoa, you know your little trick with the nines. Any number over 9 like that, that top number repeats. Well, what is that number also? So 1/3 is 0.3 repeat. It can be written as a fraction. So the trick, if you don't understand what in the world I just said, if you put a number over 9, that's the decimal. That number that's on top repeats. So 3 over 9 is 0.3 repeating. Now you don't normally see this because you normally see it reduced, but 2 over 9 is 0.2 repeating. 4 over 9 is 0.4 repeating. So you can have fun at parties and get to know people. Take it home to your parents. They'll be like, oh, they're actually learning something, even though that's not really something else to do. So yeah, your actual definition of a fraction, of a rational number is it can be written as a fraction. And what do P and Q stand for? Find your P and Q. That no, they don't stand for any words. Like they actually both stand for the same thing. They both are not an X. Both are, well, they're not real numbers. That's actually all numbers. They're integers. They have to be like either a negative number with no decimal or a positive number with no decimal. So I'll give you I can't give you the example. We haven't done it yet. What's another irrational number? What's another way to write something? Pi is one irrational number. There's really just one other one you have to worry about. It uses a certain thing that is actually up on the board in the problem. Yeah, square roots or cubed roots or to the fourth bit, whatever root you want to take. That's really the only other irrational number we're going to deal with. There are like imaginary, although I don't even, they got to be, I think, in the set of irrational numbers unless they got their whole own set. So roots would also be, along with pi, an irrational number. If you try to like put them in decimal form, it never ends. You'll never see a pattern start, and they'll certainly never terminate. So a root would be the other irrational number. So here's my question to you then. Is that, because I said the definition of a rational number is it can be written as a fraction. But I also said if it's got a root in it, then it's irrational. So is that rational or irrational? So I got one. Raise your hand if you think it's. Oh, you guys are not going to want it. So many people are going to be scared. Don't be scared. You're scared, bring it on. So is that rational? Raise your hand. Actually, let's do it this way because I can make everybody answer. If you think it's rational, raise your right for rational. Raise your right hand. You think it's irrational, raise your left hand. Now you can't hide on me. Everybody has 7 hands. Pretty split. Oh no, not pretty split. Almost everybody. A couple rights up. All right, so I said fractions, rational, roots, irrational, but here's the definition of a fraction. Now I can come back and do this. The P and the Q have to be integers. Square root of 2 is not an integer. So that technically is not a fraction. Even though just because I put the square root of 2 over a 2, technically it doesn't follow this definition of a fraction. It's got to be, it would have to be a integer number over an integer. So with that in mind, that cannot be written as a fraction. It's not a fraction, so it is irrational. So if you said irrational, you're right. All right, so let's just go ahead real quickly. I'm going to classify these for you, and then you're going to do it with a different problem, like an example. So I'm looking through these, and I'm sure it's already got the answer in the book. I'm just going to kind of do it. I know that I like to start actually go backwards with the irrational number and classify those first. So I know pi's are pretty much all, if I see that in the number anywhere, it's going to be irrational. So that's irrational. I know this is irrational. There's 2 irrational. Oh, shoot, I forgot one. This is a little, I mean, not probably new to you guys, but they didn't do it when I was in school. If you have a number and they write it like this, that would also be considered irrational because they're signifying that numbers go on forever and never repeat because they're not putting a little bar over anything. So that's another way they write irrational. So there is kind of a sort of a third way that you might see it. And like I just saw it. Actually, they don't have it here. That's still rational because it's 0.6 repeating. So that would still be considered rational. It's in another problem, and it's not. I think it's in a different one. But anyway, so those 2 are irrational. Do you see any other irrational ones? Yeah, that really weird looking one, right? Oh, I forgot one more. Is this irrational? Hold on. Hold that thought. Is that irrational or rational?
Rational.
Yeah, if you can simplify it into a rational number, because that's just 7, right? 7, square root of 7, I'm sorry, square root of 49 is 7. You can simplify it and get rid of that radical. If you can simplify it and get rid of the radical, then it's back to rational. And we can do that with that. But you can't do that with this one, so it doesn't matter. That's still irrational. So those are all irrational. I always like to start with those because to me they just kind of jump out whenever I see really weird stuff going on. Now let's come back and start talking about we'll start with natural numbers. What's a natural number? This is long here, that's why I don't care about this lesson too much. We're still gonna go through it. Actually, you know what? That's what they used to. No, whole numbers include 0. Right? It's in your book, actually. There's a little flow chart I'm going to show you, yeah. There was another word we used to call them counting numbers. We didn't call them natural numbers. We called it your counting numbers. So that should kind of tell you what natural. So what are natural numbers? Yes, all positive. So it starts with 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, going off record. That's your natural numbers. All you do to that, like if you want to look at the flow chart, like it's in your book, page 2. Bottom or kind of side bottom of page 2. That's the flow chart. If you don't know how to read a flow chart, you need to learn. If you plan on working for any type of corporate type company, like you're gonna see a flow chart. Like there have been very few jobs where I didn't need to know how to read and I just did sales. I wasn't even like working in any kind of data thing. I did sales. Yeah, I gotta write you a pass or hold on just a second. I wasn't holding anybody yet. So learn how to read it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it kind of tells you like if you see the natural numbers and 0 both go up into whole numbers, that's how the flow chart works. Or you could say whole numbers are made up of natural numbers and then the number 0. You got to know how to read flow charts in the business world. I'm not saying every single job, but like it will be helpful. So what are my just natural numbers then out of this set? Well, I got a positive 9. Again, 0 is not natural. It'll be included when we take the bump to whole numbers. And actually, that's the only natural number right there. So now, I think the answers are, actually, no, those aren't the answers. They're giving you an example right there. So if I want to go to natural numbers, I'm sorry, to whole numbers, I would just add the 0. So 9 and 0. And technically, I should be putting brackets and all that stuff around it. I'm not super worried about that. Whole numbers, you just include the 0. Then when we go to integers, what do we add in for integers? So 9 and 0 are still integers. What do we add in? Yeah, just add in negatives. That's all. So now along with the 9, I'm going to get rid of that. Now along with the 9 and the 0, there's only one negative, so we'd add that. So now that's all the integers. Now after integers, we get into things that can be written as a fraction if we're talking about rational numbers, because we've already dealt with the irrational. So now everything's rational. Basically, those next 3 can all be written as fractions. 4/3 is already a fraction. What is 0.6 of the fraction? What's 0.6? Down here, you do the 690. And then we reduce that to 2/3. So we can write it as fraction like that, or 6/9 technically is right, but you'd reduce it. Well, how do we write 28.21 as a fraction? I'll let you think about that. I'll write the pass. See if anybody actually remembers how to do that stuff. I don't care. Pick one that, as long as it's correct, I don't care. I know the simpler way to do it, but oh, that's it. And Ari and Selena remind me to check emails at the end. How did you write a 28.2? Like nobody remembers how to do the stuff you all do when you were like 5. Yeah, that's it. So if you don't, oh, that's not the right pen. So here, so 28, I'll write a little bigger. So mixed fraction, 28 just stays as the big number, the whole number part. And then the way you convert a terminating decimal, like the 0.21 part, you just put it over 100. If it was 0.211, you put 0.211 over 1,000 instead of 100. So that goes way back. I don't know if any stuff like that's on the SAT, ACT, but anyway, sometimes I'll get off on tangents just about math. I like math. I'm a math nerd. Anybody writing anything down? Got it all? Or you're just not going to write anything down. Just memorize it and see how you do on that first quiz. Yeah, that's fine. You want to take a picture quick. Again, I give you a lot of flexibility because I'm seeing people on phones a lot. I won't say a word about it until after that first quiz. Once that first quiz happens, if you're one of those people, we'll talk. Or it might be the whole class if the grades are really, really. We might change a lot of things. So just remember, flexibility doesn't mean I'm not seeing it. Just means I'm gonna see what kind of results I get out of my employees, and then I'll see whether or not I keep them on. All right, I think we're good, so I can get rid of all of it. I can't, when I use the internet like this and I scroll, that stuff doesn't scroll, it just stays where it is. So I want you, where is it? Oh, there's pi. So there's some of the digits. I don't remember how far out we went. We did that. There. So do example 1 on your own. It should be in your book, example 1. You have good handwriting. I have lousy handwriting. I am a fantastic artist. So thirsty. Oh, I have water. Oh, I do. I didn't even say this. I have water over here, like my coach's bottle thing, so that you don't put the mouth on it. And if you ever really truly want to use it, you can. I keep it in here for me, and I use this because if somebody really was dying of thirst and wanted to use it, I don't put my mouth on it, so I'm gonna drink out of it out here. You can. Oh, I'm supposed to grab this. I also have, if I haven't mentioned it, blankets in there. You're probably aware this hallway can get freezing cold. This room's normally not too bad, but sometimes it can be a little cold. Freezing to death, you can't stand it. You throw the blanket over your legs or shoulders or whatever. It helps. But I give you 30 seconds to wrap it up. I'm going to kind of do the first 2 for you just to get it started. And then if for some reason you, and then there were the first 2 answers. If you want to check here real quick. And then we said for integers, we would just add this negative numbers that didn't have decimals involved. If you can. Did you finish all that? All right. Here I gotta write your name, which I know. I assume is Alyssa?
No.
No, not you. I'm sorry. You're Emma.
Yeah.
Did Alyssa talk to her guidance counselor?
Yeah.
Or Leah. I'm sorry.
They said they canceled her because she chose that class.
Yeah, I was gonna say I heard they were not really letting kids just switch out of that. Yeah, you still have time. Because I talked to one of the people that teaches it, one of the AP people, and they're like, yeah, they are not supposed to be switching out of their class. They chose these AP classes.
They already have homework.
Yeah, I don't ever do. Oh, yeah, well, probably just like a dive bench one. I almost made you. I have one for you that I was going to give you, but because I was like, I'm not going to have time to go back and look at it. So what's the point of giving it to you guys if I don't have time to go? I mean, I got these classes are so big for this MCA, like 30. I think both of them are like right at 30 kids. So I'm gonna go around and try to figure. Oh boy, I got to spend some time. This is definitely the class I know the fewest thing. I only know about 5 or 6 of these, and one of them's leaving for sure. Maybe a couple of them. Hey, if I only needed a half credit and I had a choice between this class and dual enrollment college algebra, I'd take dual enrollment. And I love math.
Can I do dual enrollment next year?
What?
So, to get the.
Are you? What year are you? Oh, again. What did I tell you when you asked me about class? Actually, no, it wasn't you. It was somebody else. What did I? Okay, who was it? It was somebody else. The point. Oh, it was it. I had nothing to do with classes. That's so. I've known. I've heard that class is very easy. So I would assume if it's very easy, it's not like this class. What they actually do, I have no idea. I mean, I was surprised when somebody said, "Oh yeah, that's an easy A." Like this was from these teacher sort of. She got a weird role, but she's pretty knowledgeable about the classes at the school. And she's the one that helped me figure out oh no, I'm sorry. No, this was just from another math teacher that's been here for a long time. She's like, yeah, that is an easy. Talking about the dual cog. But it's only a half credit. Yeah, it's not a year-long class. It's only one semester. I don't know what you can do. I mean, then I guess you got to choose another elective that's only credit too. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up real quick. I did the first two. So 0 and 7 are still integers, so we'll write those again. But what are we going to add in for the rest of the integers? Yeah, all the negative numbers that don't have a decimal. So -1, also what? -1 is not the only one. Yeah, -13, right? And I think that's it, right? Yeah, we got all of them for integers then. Now at this point, we can, since, like I said, I would normally start at irrational, but I'm going to change to red just so, because it's going to be really close to that. So we're still going to include 0, 7, -1, -13, because if they're integers, then they're rational numbers. But what do we need to include into that subset? So which one? Oh no, you know pi is not rational. Come on. Yeah, any fractions, right? Anything that, or a decimal that repeats or terminates. So, -1/3, I heard. What was the next one? 5/8, definitely. Who's really good? What decimal is 5/8? More than a half. I'm just curious. I don't expect you. There are certain fractions you'll see a lot as you just go through life. Eighths is one because I believe if you cook, I think one of the measurements is split. I don't know if it's a cup or what it is, but it's split into eighths sometimes. So you'll see eighths a lot. I don't know why I know some of the eighths. What is any other rational? I don't think so, right? I think we got them all, right? All right, so now when we go to irrational numbers, these are not irrational. So we don't rewrite them. This is the first time we haven't rewritten something because they're not part of that irrational group. They're separate from them. Like if you look at the flow chart, they're two different groups. So now for irrational is pretty much everything else that's left. Like we've already covered all the rational, so everything else has to be irrational. So what do we have left? Yeah, that weird -5 and then a square root. It's actually just a negative, whatever square root of 5 is, that you then just make a negative. And then the square root of 2. And then, of course, our buddy, that's always going to be irrational, pi. Oh, you missed it when you went out. One of the things I scrolled through, it had the pi out to. No, not there. It was only like 7 or 8 spots, I think. All right, so that's irrational and rational. I don't think we did anything else. I think we might be done. Kind of just an intro day. I showed you, remember the online book is there. Go through Clever. Did I show you what the icon looks like in this class? Okay, let me show you that. I think that's what I did in the other class first, and then we started the lesson. That's the icon for your online book. So it didn't sync. It's actually NG, like, can you read it there? NGL sync. But yeah, the big black sync. Check it. Make sure you see it, because if you all of a sudden wait until you need it and then it's not there, you're in trouble. Like, so make sure if you ever think like you miss days, you likes to get good grades, and you want to make sure it's there. So then you go out. You won't see 2 books. I see that because I have 2 courses of this, and then you just click on the book. I have already assigned homework, so there's stuff in there. It's not like not due. That's just so you would have something in there if you wanted to go in and work on it. You're only responsible for whatever we do in class, but some of you I know like to do your own thing sometimes, or you might want some extra work if you feel like you're not comfortable. So I go ahead and I assign it before the lesson. Guess I can't. Maybe over here. That's the view I get. That's not what you. Oh, there you go. So I've already assigned actually 2 things that you will be able to work on. I don't even know how far we got in that first lesson. But there's the other thing that's available is the actual e-book. So it's an interactive version of, it's actually the same thing probably that I'm showing you. It might look a little different since I have like a teacher permission, but it has the ability to like get help, like, click on a link that gives you a video or gives you the answer explained out maybe or something. We'll play around with it together. Did I talk about laptops? Like you have to have a laptop you can bring to class because on Friday that's like supposed to be computer day and you're supposed to practice SAT and ACT stuff. So for a lot of you, if you're planning on going to college, that is the main separator between you and somebody else. Grades aren't all that anymore because there's so many discrepancies across schools and even within a school. Like I might be a much tougher geometry teacher than Mr. Fisher is, or he might be tougher than I am. So you might perform the same in one class versus the other, but you might get an A in my class and a C in his class. So those standardized tests, Ari takes the same standardized tests that, I don't remember the name now, Emma takes. So they can compare those results for that test. So you need to perform well at that if you want to get into a certain college or if you're trying to get scholarship money or any of that stuff. Standardized tests are uber important. If you don't know what that means, it means really, really, really important. Now I'm going to try to do some